Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Navid Moazzez, and welcome to the Lifestyle Architect Show. I'm so excited to be joined by the Suitcase Entrepreneur, Natalie Sisson, for a very exclusive interview. And Natalie is a good friend of mine and also the chief adventurer and freedom fighter dedicated to ensuring you build a business and lifestyle you love from anywhere using online tools, social media, and outsourcing. And I almost forgot you're also the best-selling author of the same book, kind of under the same name there, The Suitcase Entrepreneur. And I think we got to know each other more last year when I mentioned your podcast in a blog post. Like I had a roundup post around it, and then I joined your 30-day blog challenge actually, and that's kind of got onto your radar and was really helpful for me finding my own voice. So I would like to thank you. You've been a big part of my journey so far. So welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you. That's so awesome. And I loved that 30-day blog challenge because I think you were the one person who took it to the very next level. And your blog posts were always epic and amazing. And I think for you, it really helped build your audience too,
Oh
just because
yeah.
you were putting out quality content every day.
Yeah, it definitely did. And today we are also here. You have a great program coming out called the Freedom Plan, and we are going to get into some great strategies, like really how you can do this all in. I think you have like this 8-week program and it's like taking it to the next level. But first of all, I'm interested to know a little bit. Like you were in a corporate job, high paying job, and then you transitioned out and built a lifestyle business that you really love, and then obviously a really powerful online brand and also profitable. So can you talk a little bit about this journey?
Yeah, I actually think I'm really lucky because I did 8 years in the corporate world, and a lot of my roles were all in marketing. And I think one of the most definitive roles for me was when I was national brand manager for a major hair care company. So, strike forward to today, like branding is something that I love, but I never really thought about transitioning it to my own thing. It's easy to do branding for other people when you've got your own budget that you're working with from there and that they have all these products and deliverables there. But when you switch it to your own self, it was really interesting to draw on a lot of those lessons.
Hmm.
But yeah, basically, as much as I love the corporate world jobs that I built up, I'd keep taking this next leap to the next one and the next one and the next one, and I'd get bored with it really quickly. And then I'd go traveling, and then I'd come back and I'd apply for more jobs. And if I look back on it, all of my roles were pretty autonomous, and I think I just really liked working for myself on cool projects. So finally, I decided to quit it all, even though my last job was really high paying, as you noted, because I just didn't wake up every morning really jazzed. Like, in fact, I didn't even want to go to work, which is very rare for me.
Hmm.
And I was sick of the office politics and the bureaucratics and not being able to do what I needed to do within that role. So I flew off to Canada to play some World Championship Ultimate Frisbee and thought, I'm going to start my own business, even though I had no idea what it was.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean that's interesting actually because you had this like great job, obviously making quite good money, and then going there just kind of taking off. Wasn't that kind of a little scary experience since you didn't know really what this online, whatever you would do online to support yourself, being location independent would be like?
Yeah, it was crazy. But the funny thing is, most of my friends went, "You're crazy," because I just co invested in a house in London and I just had this raise and this promotion. And they're like, "Oh my God, you're crazy." And I was like, "Cool. If my friends think I'm crazy, then it's probably a good thing." You know what I mean? Like, if anybody ever thinks what you're doing is not a good idea, I often think that's a sign that, maybe it's something you just need to test out. Unless too many really smart, intelligent people tell you that it's a silly idea. But in this case, I think they were just sort of projecting their fears and thinking, well, you have this great setup. Why would you rock the boat? And I was like, because I'm miserable in it. Like, I'm not happy. So I need to.
Yes, and I know you had some kind of, you built something on Facebook. That was kind of a startup you were involved in, right? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I want to kind of go from there and like how that came into building the Suitcase Entrepreneur brand.
Yeah, so I was really lucky when I got to Canada once again. Well, lucky, I don't know, luck is preparation meeting opportunity, right? And I was just looking for an opportunity to put my skills into. And I met my business partner at its networking event in the tech sort of community in Vancouver. And we started a fundraiser, which is a really cool Facebook application that allows you to make payments and fundraise online. And it was really good for me because Daryl had actually come from a background of startups and had done some successful ones. And I knew nothing about those, but I knew that I could do marketing, branding, business development. I even helped with fundraising, financial investors, the whole business model. And my job really was to take this thing that nobody knew about, which hadn't even been built, and market the heck out of it and get customers with zero money and like zero base. So that's pretty much what I had to do. And I think it was a brilliant journey to really tap into social media, Facebook, obviously, but how do you build a business and a brand from nothing on social media?
Yeah, and that's powerful for a lot of people starting, wanting like solopreneurs. They want to build this online brand and profitable business. But something that stuck to me is like, what had the most impact on the growth of your personal brand? Was it something you made, the decision or something you made along this journey that just took things to the next level?
Yeah, I guess I should tell people where I started my personal brand. So during that startup that I co-founded, I started a blog for myself because I was learning, as you know, when you start a business, I was learning so much at such a great rate of knots that I was a little bamboozled, and I was like, well, maybe I can put it out in a blog. I can put out what I'm learning. It can be cathartic for me. I can talk about my experiences. I can interview successful women entrepreneurs because there weren't many in the tech industry, and I can just sort of figure out how this blogging thing works at the same time. So it was really a personal journey, and then that blog became like such a passion of mine, and my business partner noticed it, and he's like, Nat, you're doing a great job with the company, but I noticed that you're really passionate about this and you're putting more and more time into it, and maybe you should consider it as an avenue. And it was really good of him to recognize that, because it had, like, I kind of started to lose interest in the startup. It was a really hard road. We didn't have any funding. It was just pushing a lot of stuff uphill every day. And so I quit in April. We agreed on it, and that's when all I had was this blog and this desire to see if I could grow my community.
Okay.
So that was pretty much the start of my brand. But one thing I'd love to point out that you just asked me is my brand was not really very defined. So it was called Woman's World at the time, with a Z on it, like an NZ woman. And I kind of hid behind my brand. Like, it was a silhouette of a woman walking with stilettos in her suitcase. And it was naff. Like, when I look back on it, I think people really liked it and it was inspirational, but there was no me behind it. And I remember meeting Chris Guillebeau in Vancouver one time. I actually got to meet him in person, coffee shop. And I was really grateful for that opportunity. And he said, oh, it's really good to meet you. He's like, but where's you on your blog? And I just remember I just took that piece of advice and went, yeah, it's a really good point. So I made that kind of decision that I think a lot of people suffer from is, ooh, how much do I want to be in front and how much do I want to be behind it? So I just decided, you know what? I am who I am, and this is me speaking and writing. And if people are going to resonate with me and like me, then I have to put myself out there. So that was the big turning point, probably. And things started grow from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've done a great job with that, actually. Like, you're like really out there with your brand. You're sharing stuff on Facebook, personal things, but also you have built a tribe this way. Since you're sharing personal stuff, you have your pictures on your blog, social media, and so on. But also, obviously, your kind of logo, you're known as the Suitcase Entrepreneur. So if people like mention this, like Natalie Sisson for sure. So
yeah, it's funny, actually. I can see the keywords that people search on, and it's either Natalie Sisson or the Suitcase Entrepreneur. So it's great for a brand equity point of view.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's actually a great story how you came up with the name in your book. So you don't have to get into too much about it, but that's awesome. But one thing here that's interesting about actually really building your brand is the painted picture exercise that you have, like really sharing that. I would like to, because I haven't talked about this too much on any other episodes here. So why don't you share a little bit about that and kind of what it has done for you?
Yeah, that'd be cool. So I'd like to credit Cameron Herold, because I first read about it in his book Double Double, and it's not his idea either, but I think he kind of ran with it. So a painted picture. You've heard of a vision board, right?
Definitely.
So a lot of people do a vision board and they put up beautiful pictures of, islands and fancy cars and lovely homes and traveling and money and looking fit and healthy. And that's, it's pretty useful in that you look at these pictures and you're supposed to be inspired every day about what you want out of life. And a painted picture, I guess, takes that and makes it way more powerful and actually practical, because what it is a vision for your life and business, but 3 years from now. So you write as if you were already 3 years ahead, and you envision what you really want out of life and business across your relationships, what team you want, what your business looks like, what customers you have, where you're living, the mentors that you have in your life, the friends that you have, how your health is. And it's really powerful because when you put something out there publicly, like when you write this up and then you put it in a beautiful painted picture, whether that's a PowerPoint, a keynote, people do it in all sorts of different ways. Some people have done it as a video. It's really cool because what it does is it sort of forces you to go, wow, if that's what I want in 3 years from now, I need to start taking some action. Like I need to make this possible and happen. And for me, I did it when I was on a digital sabbatical in Malaysia last year in January. And I just wrote it in about 2 hours. And I was like, this is what I'd really love my business to look like in 3 years. Like I want to have this world-class program. I want to have 100,000 people in my community who are freedom fighters wanting to create amazing businesses and have awesome lives. I was like, oh, I want to be surrounded by smart, intelligent entrepreneurs. I want to have great mentors in my life. I want to have a loving relationship. I want to have 6 or 7 figure business. It was all kind of there. I said I wanted to have a best-selling book, and I didn't have any of this really at the time. And by the end of that year, 60% of it had come true. Like I had a #1 best-selling book. I'd spoken in front of 1,000 entrepreneurs. My audience was growing big time. My customers were amazing, like my clients and stuff. And so I also put it out there publicly, as you know, on SlideShare, and it's had something like close to 40,000 views to this day, hundreds of downloads. So it was very nerve-wracking to put it out there. But what happened when I did that, Navid, is that everybody supported it. And they're like, oh, Natalie, I saw in your painted picture that you wanted to speak here. Well, I've got an opportunity. Or I see that you really wanted to achieve this or meet this person. Well, I can maybe make that happen. And so it was nerve-wracking as heck, but at the same time, it started to come true because people were supporting it. And also because when you put something out there publicly, I'm the kind of person that stays true to my word, and I really, really want to achieve what I've said.
Yeah, I mean, I checked this out. I mean, also it looks great, and you shared it with your team and stuff like that. We can get into this a little bit, how you did that. But for someone who wants to kind of start and do this themselves, like, what should they think about? Really, like it can be hard if they're beginners, so maybe just started out. You have had your business did you do this from the very beginning or like as you went on, by the way?
No, so I was 2 and a bit years into my business for sure. So I had an understanding of where I was at, but I really wasn't where I wanted to be at yet. Like I had lots of dreams and aspirations. So even if you're just starting out and you really can't even articulate, oh my God, where do I want to be in 2 years? Just give it a shot. Like let your imagination run wild. If you could have a complete blank slate or a blank canvas and you could achieve anything that you wanted within reason in the next 2 years, like you can't become an Olympic athlete in 2 years, let's be realistic, and you probably can't build a 7-figure business in 2 years, but could you travel to 5 or 10 countries? Could you build a small team of people? Could you launch a major program that actually makes you, like $40,000 or $50,000 in a year? Could you reach out to that one mentor that you really wanted? So it's cool to be able to, even if you're just starting off from here, like just give yourself that opportunity to grow and really recognize what you want out of life.
Yeah, and also this a little bit powerful with setting maybe even smaller, like more tangible goals as you're starting out. I had actually one guy on the show is Charles No, and he built this 7-figure like business doing affiliate marketing, but he had a goal of only making 20 to maybe $40,000 per year living in Thailand. And I mean, he just exceeded this to, wow, he's like made so much money, but that's just, he set this goal small, and then he could do this stuff, as you said here, and just go away, become location independent, and which is kind of the goal as well. I mean, you can talk a bit about this, like with the freedom. You have always freedom in mind when you are creating your businesses right now or your different ventures. So how do you explain that and define this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you've just hit on why it's so powerful, because when you literally visualize exactly what you want, it's interesting how everything just starts to move you towards making that a reality. But that's the thing. No people that I meet, or so few people, can actually clearly articulate what they want. So then they don't get it. The freedom part is huge for me, because I guess people have a different idea of what freedom means to them. But for me, it means being able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. And on any given day, I can choose exactly what I want to do. If I want to take the whole day off, I can. If I want to go and spend it with family or friends, I can. If I want to travel, I can. If I just want to work on stuff that I'm launching or loving, I can. And I feel really lucky and grateful to have that, but I've set my business up intentionally that lifestyle comes first, business supports that lifestyle. And yeah, that took a lot of hard work, and yes, that took several years, but I was very clear from the beginning that that's the kind of life that I wanted to lead. And I guess that's why I built the Freedom Plan as well, because I see so many people they'll start a business and suddenly before they know it, like I did, they'll become a slave to that business and it's more like a job and they're actually getting paid way less than they used to in their real job. And I think it's once again because they haven't set up boundaries of what's important to them. Like, oh, I'd like to stop work at 2 each day, or I'd like to take a midweek weekend, or I'd like to take a digital sabbatical 3 times a year. I'd like every third month to just go and live somewhere else. So that's, I guess, something that I feel really strongly about, that you are in charge of designing your life and your business how you want it, and you have to do it from day one. Even when you're starting out with zero money, you have to be really clear and intentional about what you want.
Interesting, because I didn't really start in this sense. I just worked hard, and I did kind of the Gary Vaynerchuk approach. I kind of worked, and then it's like, this year I'm like, okay, I'm actually preparing, as we are having this interview now, I'm preparing for a summit. It's taking me a lot of time, but I realized afterwards I need something kind of to cheer me up and kind of have this kind of vacation or where I can relax. So I might go somewhere else, and that's kind of because I see what you are doing. I see what Jasper Rivers, a mutual friend of ours, he's doing, and that's interesting to see. Like, they are like having a business, and this still works for them. Like, they're making money, while they're traveling and going to all these interesting places because they set it up from the very beginning, or they have systems in place. So
yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I did the same thing. I worked my ass off when I started. But then I realized, well, hang on a minute. This is an interesting thing I found. The harder I worked back then, I didn't necessarily see leaps and bounds. But when I started going, okay, I'm just not going to work this day, but I'm going to work this day. What I did is I crammed more quality work. I prioritized the work that was really important in the shorter hours. And that was the stuff that actually delivered more. Like, it made me more sales, or it grew my community. So there's busy work, and then there's like priority work that's actually going to grow your business so that you can have this awesome lifestyle.
Actually, this is interesting. With how do you plan your day? Like, let's say now you're in your home, right, New Zealand. So
yeah, I'm so excited to be back. Yeah,
you're traveling all over.
So when I'm traveling, it's definitely a little more difficult, but I guess I'm just so used to living out of my suitcase now. So I always have a little sense of routine. Like, I'll wake up and I'll fill in my 5-minute journal, which is, your daily gratitudes and what you'd like to achieve. So it's like 5 minutes out of my day. And then I'll definitely try, no matter where I am, to get some exercise in, whether I'm doing yoga in a hotel room, or whether I'm using the gym at an apartment that I've rented, whether I'm going out on my friend's bike if I'm staying with them, or just a run. So I try and get fitness in first because it's really important. I adore breakfast, so nothing really gets done until I've made breakfast or gone out for breakfast. Like, I don't care. And certain countries in the world have amazing breakfast, so it's my priority. And then I get into the most important work of the day. So I have this the 3 most important actions of the day thing that I pretty much try to stick with, and I usually set them the night before or the morning of. I'm like, which 3 things are going to take me further today, that if I just focused on them, I'll be happy. So not the long to-do list that everybody has, but just 3 things. That might be writing a client proposal, it might be working on a guest post, it might be recording a podcast, it may be working on a launch of something. And then all the rest can kind of go to the side. I also have a really good systems now. I have tools. I have a small but nimble team around the world, and I've just become really good at delegating a lot to them. So initially I was doing it all myself, and now I'm the front person. I'll do the videos, I'll do the podcast, I'll write some stuff that's important, but the rest my team can handle very competently. So that's freed up a ton of time for me, and it also allows me to be flexible in what I get to work on each day. But then to answer your question,
one thing here, like with planning kind of tomorrow, today is so powerful. And I also had this it's like a coach for athletes, professional athletes, Todd Herman on my show. He said the same thing. Really just focus on these small steps, like maybe 3 action, not like having this 10 things you should do, because it never gets done. Like, you should focus on the most important things, as you said. So keep going, please.
Well, then you feel like a failure when you have 20 things on your to-do list and you get through 4 of them. But you're already setting yourself up for failure. Focus on 3 things that you can do, and the rest can be delegated or can be put to another day. But to come back to your question, so yeah, I've just come back to New Zealand to visit my family. I'm house sitting in this lovely house. I have a car. I've joined the gym. So it's kind of cool because I get to live a normal life a little, and I can go off to the gym every morning and then come back and make my own breakfast and then work on my stuff and then go out and explore. So it's pretty much the same though wherever I am. If I'm in a new destination, I'll go out and explore for most of the day. I'll do my work in the morning, I'll do some in the evening, and then I'll go out for dinner. So I just know whatever I'm doing, I set myself up, whether it's more travel time or whether it's more work time, and then I fit my sort of plans around that. So if I'm going to launch something, I wouldn't be traveling like crazy during that period because it's a stressful but fun thing.
Yeah.
And also, if I'm not launching anything and everything's running smoothly, I'll go off and I'll travel a lot more and be offline a lot more. So it's just about knowing what you really want and then working your work around it.
When would you say that you should like? I mean, I built a team kind of from day one a little bit. I started with outsourcing tasks. Did you have this as well in the beginning, or was it now you have a VA, and all this stuff? When did you kind of get into that mindset that you can't do everything yourself? You really have to outsource things, otherwise we're kind of letting the business run us.
Yeah, you were smarter than me. You did it from day one. So it's a great question. So I started my business. It took me almost 2 years, actually. So I did have some contractors and people that I would outsource to, like maybe a copywriter for one of my launches, and I got some design help. But at my VA, I first got at the beginning of 2012, when I knew I was going to go biking down Africa, like on a bicycle for 2 months, and then I'd be offline. And I was like, oh my God, I need somebody to help me run the business. So I think the reason I put it off for a while is, one, like most people they think it's expensive, and I was on a massive budget. I mean, I literally was starting a business from scratch. I was putting all my money that I wasn't really earning into my business. And two, it's this kind of, and I talk about this in the Freedom Plan, people don't outsource because they have this control freak tendency. They feel they can't afford people. And the third thing is they don't know how to start delegating or handing over. So they're like, oh, well, I'll just keep doing it myself then, which is stupid, by the way, but we all do it. So yeah, I think it took me almost 2 years. And the minute I got my VA and I was like, here, just deal with these things while I'm away. And she did a great job. And I was like, why haven't I been doing that forever? And then I started hiring more people. And now I'm like, I mean, my team's still small and nimble, but I love them. And I'm like, oh, I'll just give you this and this and this. Like, I'm happy to hand over everything that's not my core competency because I trust them, and we have really good systems, and we have these standard operating procedures which really help for people to just pick up any task that any of us is doing and do just as good a job as us.
What do you use to manage your team? Do you use any tools for that, since we are kind of talking about these topics? So
the four main tools: Skype or Hangouts is how we communicate in a weekly little freedom meeting, we call it. And Asana is our absolute tool of choice, which I think you use as well. So we do everything on that, all our tasks, all our communication. It's cut down on our email dramatically. So that's how we sort of say, hey, this is your turn to do this, or here's this thing that I finished, can you check it over? And then we use Google Drive a lot, because that's where all our live documents are, launch plans, guest posts, newsletters, etc. And then I guess the final thing is just Dropbox, where we keep the final files or any program information. So I would say we live on Asana and Google Drive.
Yeah, interesting, because we actually have, I introduced you to my designer, and he is always on Skype. I love that, because I don't like to have this email conversation back and forth. I just like to have real time and get the feedback right away. And that's kind of the first step to me. He's always doing all the work for me, design wise and coding on my site, but I don't really have a VA full time. But I think it's still important to start finding people and building this team, even if it's small, as you say, and then you can, as you get more money or whatever you need it, sometimes you don't even need a full-time VA when you're starting out. So that's the thing, I think you have it through Chris Ducker's service, right? That's your...
No, I do support his service, because if you don't want to go about hiring somebody or that process, his service is really good. No, I actually found mine through a recommendation referral. And then the first one was through a referral, and I hired her through Elance. And this one I actually found through Odesk. I just put out a job posting. I hired 2 VAs to do the same task, and I tested them for about a month, and she was just outstanding. And she's still not full-time, but with this launch, she's probably come up to around 30 or so hours. And then Sabrina is the same. She's around 30 hours a month. And then, it's so interesting looking back at when you do everything yourself. And this time around for this launch, which is major and exciting, I just feel like I've got this awesome team on board, including your amazing designer. So thank you for that. An incredible copywriter who was also a referral. A guy who's working on the membership site. So it's really kind of lovely as you progress in business, how you can start hiring more experts and people who are just way better at things than you, and it just returns dividends to you.
Actually, one thing I wanted to cover here as well, that we talked about the painted picture. So how did you share that with your team? And that's also, if you have a team, let's say I have this designer on and I want him to really know how I feel about certain things, so he's always aware of where my brand is going. How would you do that?
Shoot, I forgot to share it with him actually, but normally with team members who come on board for a long term, They actually get sent a letter when they start, like a little letter in Google Drive, and it has basically, "Hey, welcome to the team." And the very first thing is, "Hey, this is our mission to, to help 100,000 entrepreneurs create freedom in business and adventure in life." And I think we're well on the way to doing that. And then straight after it says, "Here's my painted picture," which is what I have as a vision for the next 3 years. You're part of that vision, so I'd love for you to take time to look through it and read it. And it's really cool actually, because quite a few of my two main team members, they look over it every once a month, and I do as well actually, and just kind of go back over, wow, why are we doing what we're doing? What are we heading towards? What are our values?
Yes.
What's our big vision? So yeah, I think it's really important to share that with your team. Even sometimes the financials and your goals and your planning, I try to bring them on board as much as I can with that. Like, what's our quarterly goal here? Like, how are we going to achieve this, and how are you a big part of it? Because everybody's motivated differently, but if you don't feel like you've got the inside knowledge of where you're heading with that business, or you don't feel like you're really a team member and you're part of that success, then people tend to be less motivated to, to do a great job.
Oh yeah, completely agree. And that's why I encourage, like, if you really want to, like, you're building a brand, maybe you start out with a simple website, but as you go, you hire someone, that can do maybe a custom design. It's important that it's actually someone maybe you can work with for a while, so he understands your vision, like where your brand is heading. Otherwise it's super hard to create something lasting and really really injecting your personality into the brand. And that's why I wanted to get into as well, kind of, there's an exercise I did when I actually did this 30-day blog challenge called the Perfect Day exercise. And it kind of ties into, we talked about the painted picture now, but also how it ties into your brand and other people getting you, right? So can you explain a little bit, like maybe how you did that and why it's so powerful?
Yeah, that's awesome actually. So to put it in perspective for people, because it sounds like quite a lot, the perfect day exercise is probably the easiest one to start off with, because it is basically, if you could do anything you wanted tomorrow without limitations, like money, location, anything, what would you do? Where would you be, and how would you spend your time, and who would you be spending it with? And as you noted, you did a really great job on that, but a lot of people can't, once again, tell you, if you could do anything you wanted in the world tomorrow, what would be your perfect day, your ideal day? So a lot of people say, oh, I'll wake up a little bit later and I'll go to work a little bit later and maybe I'll take an extended lunch. And I'm like, no, man, if you could do anything, like, would you get up in the morning and have your chef make you breakfast? Would you go and just be by the beach? Would you go and do yoga? Would you go sailing for the day? Like, would it include work? Maybe it wouldn't. And it's really neat, because how this translates into everything we've been talking about is, if you can get clear on what a perfect day looks like for you, you can start incorporating more elements of your perfect day into your life. So let's say you do love to go to the beach, and in your ideal world, you'd live by the beach. But let's say right now you live in a city and you're nowhere near one, but could you go to a swimming pool once a week? Could you take a trip to the local river or lake? Is there any way you can be by water, because that's generally what you're looking for, and incorporate that a little bit more in your day? For people who want to wake up later, could they have one day a week where they go to breakfast with their loved one, or where they get up a little bit earlier and they have, they cook breakfast and it's not a rush in the morning as they're heading off to work? If you love to just be on a beach, laying in a hammock, reading a book, could you set up a hammock in your living room and take half an hour out in the afternoon to do it? So there's lots of ways to start incorporating that in. And what people start to realize is that they can have more of those perfect day moments in their life, more than they realized. How that relates into the painted picture is, by having more of those perfect days in your life, you're heading towards kind of this beautiful vision for your life and business in 3 years from now. And how that translates into how the heck do I make that happen now is this one-page business plan that you put your next 12 months in, that are going to take you further to your 3-year plan. So I was just trying to give people that broader perspective, because a lot of people go, well, what's my perfect day got to do with what I'm doing like right now? And it's got a heck of a lot to do with it, because the more you can get clear on what you want to be doing every day, the more you're going to move towards doing the stuff that you love.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I can also share, actually, have this one-page business plan template. I think I can link it up in the show notes. But one thing I wanted to ask here is, like, would you like to share maybe like a brief version of your perfect day, so people can get an understanding of what that sounds like?
Yeah, I do share a little bit of it in the Freedom Plan program. Okay. It's pretty funny, because I would love to be by the water. Water is my non-negotiable. So as long as I can see it or be close to it on a daily basis, I feel a lot more energized. So in my perfect day exercise, I actually have this beautiful photo of this incredible apartment, lots of white, really simplistic, minimalist, because I'm a minimalist. Big French doors that open out and you can see the ocean right in front of you. I jump up, I have my dog, which I obviously don't have because I'm in a suitcase, my hot guy. And we go down to the beach together. We either go for a run or a swim, and then after we play some frisbee because I'm a big frisbee fan. So with my dog, we'll play catch. It'll be fun. We come up and our personal chef has made us an awesome breakfast, and we sit out in our courtyard, which is surrounded by beautiful flowers and nature, and we sit out in the sunshine with our breakfast, a fresh juice, coffee, eggs. There's always got to be eggs. And we talk about what we're really excited about in the day ahead, what we're going to focus on. And then we sit down together and we co-work for like 2 solid hours working on different projects, our core competencies. And we have lunch together. And then in the afternoon, I head off and I go biking with my friends, or I do something where I'm meeting up with other people, come back, do some more focus stuff together, either working on our business or whatever it is, maybe some customer client calls. And then in the evening we have our friends over for dinner, we drink, we dance, and probably end the night making love, which would be pretty awesome. So that'd be like my perfect day.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't happen every day, obviously, because some days aren't going to be there, but yeah, it's really neat to be able to do that. And it's surprising once I started doing that, how I made that happen. Like I would get up in the morning and I'd go off down to the water or a swimming pool or the gym. I'd make my breakfast, or I'd go to breakfast somewhere. I'd focus on my thing, and I'd sit in a really cool cafe or a really nice courtyard. So you can make it happen.
Yeah, I think it's actually, I mean, even though you're sharing your perfect day here, is like some takeaways that you can do these small things. Like even if you're living in a city, like you can go to the swimming pool if you like the water as you say, or you can go to a coffee shop working there. Like you can get this sense of already making it or being like location independent, having this freedom, and then it's going to be much easier. But that also leads us kind of to, let's say you're in a full-time job and you're working to save up some money, or maybe you're getting your business to kick off. How much savings do you kind of need to go out and about and running your business on the road?
Yeah, I'm sure I was just thinking to people who are like, but I've got a job and I've got to go to it. How does that apply? You know what? I had, and I'm being really honest here, I had pretty much $2,000 to my name when I left the business that I co-founded. And I certainly hadn't considered that I wouldn't be working for them, because I was, even though I was a co-founder, I was receiving a salary. So when I left, I was like, oh my God, I have like zero savings, almost $2,000 to my name. I'm living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. My rent was $800. And I had nothing, like nothing on offer. So I actually, it was pretty hard for a while. It was about 6 months without earning any income. And I was down to this point where I couldn't pay my rent check, which was not fun at all. And I remember I got a lead on a client who wanted some social media help with their startup. And I remember we'd had 3 or 4 meetings, and I was really hoping I'd be able to consult for them, even though I'd never really consulted. And I remember I was down to like the day that I had to pay my rent. It was like the final day. And I mean, I could have had friends help me out, but I really didn't want to get in that position. It was just a shitty position to be in. Yeah. And they decided, yes, they were going to go with me. And so I said, right, I think it was $2,000 or something, which seemed like a lot of the time. And I was like, and it's 50% up front and 50% later. And they're like, why 50% up front? And I was like, because that's what consultants do. Like, I didn't even explain it well. And they're like, okay, so they wrote out a check, and I literally ran across the road to bank my check, which just covered my rent. But wow. It's weird because people ask me that a lot. How many savings do you need? Mm-hmm. I appreciated not having much money because it made me hustle and work a lot harder to bring in income. And it's amazing when you don't have that safety net, how you can make things happen, and how stuff suddenly starts to come out of the woodwork for you. Like you speak to clients more appropriately, you ring up people, like you make everything happen that within your power to get work, to get income coming in. And I kind of like it. I like it because I didn't have dependents. I didn't have a family, for sure. If you had that, you'd have to be a little smarter. Mm-hmm. But there is something about not having much of a safety net to really make you kind of jump and go after your dreams.
I mean, yeah, I come kind of from the same approach a little bit. I didn't have any savings, I didn't really have anything really. I just wanted to start, and I wasn't really happy where I was kind of in law school going into this path of my life. So it's kind of similar. It made me take a lot of massive action and really starting making some money. Like first, some extra money, I cut down hours on my job, and then eventually, I have very little, I can probably go out traveling, but I want to like build the business up to a point where it feels more stable. At least for me, that's the way. It depends what goals you have as well. Some people, they just want to go to Thailand and live on a beach. Maybe it's cheaper to go there. But if I want to go, my goal, as I said in the perfect dream, is kind of to go to San Diego, to stay there for a little bit more expensive. So you have also kind of keep that in mind when you have savings and kind of make this plan for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And that, for some people, it may just be that they want to spend more time at home, or that when they're home, they get more free time to hang out with their family. And so it's just always thinking about, what does that mean to you? And another thing that I think a lot of people don't consider is they're like, but I need to earn $5,000 a month because my rent's so high and I've got mortgage payments or I've got car payments, plus I'm buying the stuff. And I'm kind of like, well, you've chosen to do that, right? I mean, short of going to Thailand or somewhere cheap, you could rent a cheaper place. You could buy less stuff and spend it on experiences, not stuff. You could catch the bus. You could get a bike. Like there's all these ways to initially cut your costs, but still live a really full life and actually feel freer because you don't have to pay for all the stuff that's constantly dragging you down. So I think everybody makes a choice, right, on where they want to invest their money and how they want to spend their time. And for me, it's on experiences, not stuff. Yes. And that makes a huge difference to actually being able to enjoy the money that you earn and spend it on the things or the people or the experiences that you love.
And one interesting thing in the 30-day blog challenge was that I wrote about kind of what I think it was location independence and what it really means. It's different for a lot of people. It can be that you are actually like at home with your family and can spend more time with your kids. Obviously I don't have a family, so for me it's more like about the freedom, being able to go where I want, spending time with friends, go to exciting events around the world, stuff like that. But for someone who's at home, that's also location independent in my world, really being able to stay there. So I think really what you're doing is also applicable to those people.
Exactly. Yeah, it's what is your perfect day and what does your future look like is entirely up to you. How do you want to manage it and what it looks like, but be clear on what it is, right? Because otherwise you can't work towards it.
Yes.
You don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there.
Definitely. But I want to get it, tie this together a little bit, how this relates. We talked a lot about great, exciting things here, but you got to make the money, right? So what's some opportunities for that? There's so much more to it and we cannot get into everything, but explain a little bit how you can make money and how you have a lot of different income streams, but especially when you're starting out, and the fastest way to kind of making money and becoming location independent.
Yeah, so I guess the fastest way to making money is there's three ways you can make money in my mind and through research is selling your own products, selling your own services, or selling other people's stuff, right? So services is the easiest way to get money straight away, as you well know. So if you have any skill at all that you're fairly decent at and that you think people will pay you money for, you can turn that into a service. You can say, yep, I'll teach you how to tie your shoes. I'll teach you how to create a great web page. I'll teach you how to write copy. I will teach you how to become healthier because I know this much information. I know that it's good and I know how to deliver it well. So the fastest path is to, put up a page on your website, not even on your website, and just say, here's this thing that I have. Here's why it'll help you. Here's who it helps. And here's how much it is, and let's start. And that sounds super easy, and it kind of is. It's that finding your sweet spot, that intersection between what you're good at, what people will pay you for, and what you enjoy.
Yeah.
Another way you can do it is to create a product, whether that's a physical product you can do or a digital product, which is obviously way easier. There's way less costs involved, and you can get it up in a weekend. You could create a video series or just a video and audio, an ebook, whatever. You can do something that people would be willing to pay for if it's solving a problem. And the final part is obviously selling other people's products. So if you don't feel like creating anything yourself, you don't feel like you have anything to offer, but you can have a website or a blog where, like you do, you write epic content, you talk about things that matter, you drive people to your site, you're on social media, people consume your content, and then you refer them to things that you like using, that you recommend. Then that's another way, affiliate marketing, I guess, of being able to make commission from other people's stuff. Because in a way, you're selling their things, and so you get that commission back. Those really are, if you're just starting from scratch, those are the sort of three ways that you can make money.
Yeah, definitely.
And I have 8 revenue streams, which I'm slowly cutting down, which is sort of new. So one is I have my own digital products and programs. I have workshops that I've run around the world, which have been really fun. I hold retreats. I get paid to speak. I have my book. And I have sponsors for my podcast. And then outside of that, I have a recurring program, the High Flyers Club, which is for experienced entrepreneurs. So there's lots of ways, plus affiliate marketing. So I use so many tools to run my business and services that I love. And I talk about them all the time because I genuinely love them. And if people buy them, I take a cut. So it's really cool because some of those are more active revenue streams, some are more passive. And if you are going to take your business on the road, it's better to go with things that are more passive, or I like residual, so that you're not having to actively work on things all the time. But at the same time, it's got to be something that suits your personality. So you and I are both social. I love being able to meet people, so that's why I run workshops and retreats, because I love getting to meet people in person. I couldn't sit behind a computer all the time just putting out stuff that just then sits there in the background and makes me money. Strange like that, but I like actually the human interaction. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a great explanation. And I think, like in my case, services, that was probably what made me money first, right? Then, or affiliate income actually. And now as my list grows, obviously the affiliate income can become even more prominent. I promoted Ramit Sethi's product to my list, made $5,000, and that was just through having a relationship with my list. I didn't really sell them on much, just providing really good content. And also when I'm putting out my own products, say down the road, my mastermind and all this stuff I have coming up, then they will be more kind of willing to purchase that too, since I've already kind of made them used to great products I use myself. Like in your case, also the Freedom Plan, which we are talking about today. So I think it's the same, it applies there too.
well, it's because you're coming from a genuine point of view, right? You can see when somebody's being really pushy about something and it doesn't relate. But everything that you and I talk about is something that we've either benefited from, we've experienced ourselves, or we use ourselves. So we're we're going to talk about it excitedly because we love it and we use it and it's really helped us, and we want to share stuff will help other people.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get into talking maybe about what you have coming up here, so there's one last question I'd like to cover. And that was actually, if you started from scratch, with not much, what would you do to kind of build your online presence, online brand up, and really like that would have the most focus on the biggest ROI for your time and money too, since that's kind of where we are coming from, not having a lot when we are starting.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because if I did start all over again, I'd probably do it similarly, but with a little bit more emphasis on the right thing. So when I started, I would write a lot of blog posts on my site, like you, put out quality content, I'd engage on social media, and I did some guest posting, and I was just basically trying to be helpful, useful, valuable at the same time as learning all my skills. These days, I'd probably be way more strategic. I'd literally do everything on other people's sites. So I would write really valuable, epic guest posts on some authority sites. I'd create relationships with the right people, just like you've done a great job of. Reach out to people I admire, start to network with them, ask them for opportunities to maybe write for them, be on their shows. So I would go the route of guest posting and probably podcast interviews to build a community really quickly, to be able to share my story or my value with people and build a list from other people's audiences, because it's really hard to start from scratch and have zero audience and build it step by step. But people who have existing audiences who need to hear your message, you want to get in front of them.
Yeah, it's kind of these JV partnerships, and also with the virtual summit I'm doing for the branding summit, it's the same way. We are sharing audiences, and that's what you need. And also in a way to position yourself and kind of build your authority, because when you're starting, nobody knows about you. So how can you do that? Get on other people's sites, guest blogging. You can do a summit. You get to know a lot of influencers, comment on their blogs, get on their radar basically. I did your blog challenge. I did a great job. That's kind of, you noticed me more, and here we are, doing this interview. So it's kind of the journey, like how it is. But now actually I would like to get into a little bit more what you have coming up with the Freedom Plan, and really what your goals are with it, who you are targeting, and all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this because, for people who are just starting out, this has been 4 years in the works, and it's come from a lot of hindsight, coaching hundreds of people around the world, teaching, learning myself. And it's a combination of my best-selling book that I put out last year, the 30-day blog challenge, which was a lot of work that I put into that, and I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And so many people went through it, and hundreds of people were blogging daily. But then all that epic content was kind of sitting there, and I was like, that seems wasteful. And then I've also been running these Build Your Online Business workshops this year around the world, and people were loving the content in there. But I was really only wanting 8 to 10 people at each workshop so I could have that hands-on. And I thought, well, that's sad for people who can't come to those workshops around the world. And it's also not scalable. So I've combined it all, and some of it we've discussed today: the painted picture, the perfect day, the one-page business plan, the crafting your blog and your branding plan. I've combined it all into the Freedom Plan over 8 weeks, because I don't think that there is one definitive program out there that talks about, there's lots of business programs, right? Here's how to launch a product. Here's how to build a business. And then there's travel products that go, hey, here's how to be location independent. But I really don't feel any of them focus on if you want to build a fantastic lifestyle, then you want to build a business that supports it. They often talk about here's how to make money and here's how to do all this. I'm talking about how do you have the best life possible and a business that's profitable that you really love. So that's what the Freedom Plan is all about, making sure you actually have a plan of action. Even if you don't start straight away, like how can you get from A to B and how can you build a great business but also a fantastic lifestyle? So
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, I can tell. And you have actually also a you have a webinar coming up too. At the time when this goes live, there will still be an opportunity for people actually to sign up to this webinar if they go to navid.me/freedom plan webinar. But why don't you tell them a bit what they get when they go there? So there's so many webinars out there, they're getting overwhelmed. So what do you get on yours?
They get me. They get to listen to me and my dulcet tones almost an hour. No, seriously, I probably put some of my best information and resources and insight into this webinar because essentially you get to turn up for free training that should be paid for, where I'm going to be revealing a whole lot of stuff. Obviously, my background, some of what we've discussed today, but really my path to revenue, how I built up my business to be 6 figures or more, and all the sort of things that people overlook, all the mistakes that they make, I'm going to discuss in there. And also just the sort of 6 steps to building an online business that I think a lot of people miss. So the fundamentals of building a business that people they'll often talk about, but they don't show you how. So for people who don't know me, and you know me well, I'm all about transparency and showing people how to take action, not just talking about what you should do and not giving you the tactics of how to do it. So I guess it's going to be a packed hour of talking through that. And of course, I'm going to talk about my Freedom Plan program within it, but essentially, I'm just going to be sort of revealing the behind the scenes of how do you run a business from the road? How do you create a business from scratch based around your sweet spot? And then what are the sort of things you need to do to keep growing and scaling that, as well as how do you have more freedom in your life? Like, what does freedom mean to you and how can you incorporate it more into what you do?
And they also get kind of a gift if they sign up there, right?
They get, sorry, I couldn't quite hear you there. They get a really cool workbook
yes.
and checklist, actually. Yeah, which is almost like a little mini ebook in itself. So I'm actually sort of forcing people to take action before they come to the training. And we talk about the perfect day and the one-page business plan, the painted picture. So I'm actually giving people steps in there to get started on that themselves. And then if they bring that to the webinar, then I actually get to turn up early, 20 minutes before, and talk to them about that. I'm happy to answer questions. And then I'll be taking people through more of that on the webinar training. So yeah, I think people will take a lot away from it regardless of what action they take.
Definitely. I mean, I'm excited about it. And, you know, if you want to really create this business, I couldn't recommend it more because it really stems from like the blog, everything you've done, actually, like the Suitcase Entrepreneur book, the blog challenge and all this stuff. So I mean, I recommend signing up for this webinar actually if it's still, when you're listening to this, it's still available because it's not going to be open for that long, your course, right? So how long is it open for?
What? I can only take 1,000 on the webinar and it's already maxed out at the current level. So I'm having to extend it. So yeah, there are spots for sure, but people should definitely register because that blew my mind.
All right. So head over to navid.me/freedom plan webinar, sign up there and see what Natalie is all about and the freedom plan she's launching. So any final words here, Natalie?
Any final words? Yeah, I'm going to leave you with one of my quotes that I just live by, which is from Yoda, which is do or do not, there is no try. That's pretty much how I've approached my entire life and business. So even when I figure out I can't do something, I'll just give it a shot. And it really frustrates me when people say, I'll try and do this, or I'll try and do this one day or someday, because there is no one day or someday, and trying isn't going to get you anywhere. You just have to take action and do it. So hopefully your audience are awesome like that, your community, and they're action takers. Hopefully they'll turn up to the webinar, but either way, hopefully they'll consider more about what we've discussed today and what freedom really looks like to them.
Definitely. So I love that quote as well. So thanks so much, Natalie, for coming on here.
Thank you.